Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Wise. Today we are going to look at the next topic, that is the surprise moves. So this is about some position solving which we are going to do. We have learned various themes. See, we have discussed knight fork, pin, double attack, deflection, overloaded piece, destroying the defender, interference, clearance and all that. And now the topic which I have taken is the surprise move. Here it could be any theme, but the main aspect is the surprise element of the move, the unexpected move which is played in the game. The idea is surprising, okay, or the move is surprising, hence the name surprise move. So we will try to solve the positions in the same way as we have been doing. This is white to play and all are white to play and win positions. So we will try to evaluate, we will try to see whether the combination should happen. So if we look at take a look at the position, we come to know that white king is in the center, but apart from that, queen is attacking near g7, the b2 bishop contributes towards that, knight on c3 is active, it stops the bishop and queen both from attacking there. Black's knight on f6 is a defender, rook on h1 can be considered active, it can immediately go to g1 and attack from the open file. A1 rook is inactive. Let's take a look at black pieces. We can easily say that black king's safety is a bit compromised because of white's pieces attacking towards the black king. Same we cannot say about the white king. White king is quite safe. No checks are possible. Okay, now or even after some moves. Queen is somewhat active, but not capable of going near the king. Same about the d8 and f8 rooks. bd6 is active. Overall we can say that there are some problems related to the black king. White to play, white thought first of the move queen f6. Very obvious move because we see that the diagonal is opened. So after queen f6, gf6, rook g1 check, king h8 and knight can move to d5 and the bishop can attack on f6, but black, as we can see, has the move e5 there, closing the bishop's diagonal. So the idea queen f6 is very good, but it fails here. So black started thinking of other moves. There are some other captures, fe6, which doesn't contribute on the diagonal. Now let's look at the next move, knight into d5. We see that after knight d5, knight into d5 is not possible because of qg7 mate. And after knight d5, ed5, let's see, almost forced, because if ed is not taken then we are threatening knight f6 check also and queen f6 also. So after e into d5 comes queen into f6, the actual surprise element here, because after gf, which is the only way to save g7, rook g1 check, bg3, then queen takes, rook takes g3 check, king has to go to h8 and we see that bf6 checkmate. So it was a forced loss after the move nd5. All white pieces went to the black king side. Let's look at the next position here. It's a very interesting position and the surprise element we will see comes into play very soon. So at first if we see that, we can come to know that white's rooks are very active, white is exchange up, but black has one pawn for the exchange. So bishop and pawn for the rook. Black rook is also active and the white rooks are also active. The problem position is the black king. King is stuck very badly and white is able to force moves. At first it looks the win is very easy. White can go with the move g4. See, the candidate moves which come to mind is rook f5. The rook is lying on the h7, but rook h7 doesn't help, and apart from that the only other attacking move is g4. So rook f5 and g4 should be the initial candidate moves. After g4 it looks the bishop has to move. So let's say if the bishop goes to b1, then very easy, g5 check, king has to come to h5 and rook takes h7. Not just winning the rook over here, but do note that king has no place to move. King can't go to g5, king can't go to g4 and the h file is blocked. So after g4, bb1, g5 check, king h5, rook h7 is checkmate. g5 is supported with the rook. Okay, but the position is not that simple. It's very interesting. To g4, black has a very interesting defense. Rook h3 check. Now if the king moves away to g2, then bishop takes g4 and the rook will get protected. King f4 forced, supporting the pawn, and now comes rook h4. So at first it looks like now the g4 pawn will be gone. And once g4 is taken, then it's not possible for white to win the game. Okay? So what should white do here? Once we reach till here, it's not very difficult to fight. Very simple. Only move if white has to stop rook g4, white has to go for rook into f5. This is the surprise element. G into f5, and I would say this is the surprise move. King takes f5. See, the material is equal, but black is in a mating net. I have talked about mating net before in my initial chapters. What happens here now? The king is not having any place to move. King is under threat and he is not able to escape from that threat. So after, see, rook h5, pawn will just take h5. So rook check is not possible. And if the rook tries to run away, then g5 check, forcing kh5 and rook h7 mate. So there was no defense to this apart from giving up the rook with rook h5. Okay, and white won the game. So let's go to the next position here. Again, it's white to play and win. So this position is somewhat easy actually, but the element is still very surprising. So I have taken this. So both pawns are about to queen, and we see that the black king is lacking space. Okay, that is the main reason. Because of the king safety issues, it is that black lost the game. Okay, so at first the most obvious move is bishop into c7, to which after king c7, king a7, looks like black will be in trouble after b8 queen check. Okay, but after e1 queen over here, we see that b8 queen check, and after the move king c6, there is no direct way to give check and win the queen. So this position will not be winning for white. At the most he can do qb7 check and take the pawn on f3. Still we can say the game would be drawn. Okay, let's go back and see what should be the best. So white has to look for some other idea here. White found the very interesting simple move actually, bishop b6. Now the idea is simple. He threatens mate on a7, bishop a7 mate. So if e1 queens, then bishop a7 would be checkmate. Okay, so black if takes bishop into b6, then king into b6, and again we see the same thing. If e1 becomes queen, then pawn goes to c7 and checkmate. So two pawns are able to checkmate the king. After the move bb6, bishop f4. Okay, and now he intends to go bd2. Even the move bg3 is possible, stopping bf2 and threatening e1 queen. Okay, that also makes lot of sense. So let's keep the bishop on g3 and see what should white play here. And here I think you must have found it by now. Idea is very simple. c7 check using decoy, forcing the bishop to occupy the c7 square. Bishop c7 forced, and then bishop goes to a7, checkmate. So the small surprise element was the move c7, causing decoy to the bishop. Deflection to the particular square is called decoy, and see, it's a unique kind of checkmate. At the next position here, a very interesting one and a very tricky position. From the look of the position, we can see that the black king has no place to move. That is an outright weakness we can see. White's presence is there on the d file. Pieces are very active on the d file. Bishop attacks c6, bishop attacks g7. Both knights active. This knight on c3 can go to e4 and jump to the f6 square. f6 is a big weakness that we can see now. See, in spite of all the activity and poor placing of black pieces, by poor placing, see the knights are placed in such a way it is cutting across his own defense. Okay, queen to the rook, rook to the queen, rook on a8 is misplaced, it's on the open file but not what we can say coordinated to anything towards the king side. Same we can say about the c8 bishop also. So the solution is little bit tricky here. White mainly noted that the e7 rook is very badly placed and he didn't want black to have time to protect the e7 rook. Let's see the candidate moves here. Very obvious candidate which comes to mind is nb5, attacking the queen, cb, then a8 is hanging. Knight is able to go to d5. So white's whole combination was based on the idea of knight d5, which made him find the move bishop into c6. This came as a big shock to black because see the surprise element here, it is not just the pawn which is taken, rook is attacked, now we are threatening knight b5 also. There is lot of attack on d7, so bishop d7, this knight moves, we can have indirect attack. And there is another threat nc8 followed by bd7, winning the piece. So black had to take queen c6 to protected the rook, saved himself from nc8 threat, and now came the move nd5. So basically bishop into c6 was destroying the defender of c6, and that is why I told, because see the badly placed knights on d7 and e6, nothing can be done to protect the rook on e7 just because of these two. bf6 just allows e into f6, rook e8, then just knight e8, and again threat of knight e7, not just winning the queen, also checkmate. Okay, so here actually black resigned in the game, absolutely nothing he has. Even the move f5 allows knight e7 mate, because knight on d6 controls f7. So what he could do is play qd6, ed6 and perhaps play on, but the game is not going any further. We can see that after rook e8 still knight e7 check, rook takes, pawn takes, and white will win. Let's look at the last position here. Again white to play, very interesting position, and do note that these are all actual game positions, none of them are composed positions. We are focusing on three things when we do this position. The first skill is to find the moves, which is one of the most important skill according to me. Second is try to see further, that is to calculate variations in our mind, try to imagine the positions further. And thirdly, we are trying to get acquainted with the themes or motives or the ideas, so that we can use them as a pattern recognition during our games. So in this position, white sees that at first if we see it looks very difficult. General rule says what? 2 pawns on the 6th rank are superior to the rook. Okay, if the king is away, not in the square of these pawns, then the rook is alone not capable of stopping the 2 pawns, which is very true here also. Black king, which looks in the mating net right now, we see that has few problems. After b6 check, king will just move to a6 and nothing will happen. So white uses a combined tactic on the pawns which are about to queen, and at the same time takes his king towards the opponent's king, thereby reducing its place and putting it in the mating net. Okay, so the first move kd6, which at first looks bad. See, white's first problem is after kd6 the rook will never leave have the d5, so d2, and we see that it's impossible to stop the pawn from queening. So many people reject this at once. Let's look at some other lines. After kb6, white will simply take rook e3, and after d2, rook comes to d3, pawn will be taken, and b7 also will be taken. Absolutely necessary to move the d pawn or the e pawn. If we move the e pawn, same we will have the similar position as in the game. But d2 looks winning for black because d pawn is about to queen now, and white is not still having any threat, like b6 check, then just king takes b6 or even king a6. Okay, and still d1 is queen. But white had a very strong surprise idea, king c7. This and the next move, we can say, are the two surprise elements in the game. After the move d1 queen, still it looks like after b6 there is king a6. But now white forces a checkmate with the moves rook a6 check, forced to take pawn into rook, thereby again forcing the decoy of the pawn to a6 square. When a7 check, king a8, b7 check, king a7, and the pawn promotes to queen by b8, and it's a checkmate because of the pawn on a6. Although here, if even the pawn is not on a6, after k6, qb6 mates. But I hope the positions were really interesting, and the surprise element was the key factor in these positions. I hope you are enjoying these lessons. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.